So welcome, the Honourable Senator Tony Loffreda. We so appreciate your remarkable leadership and diligence as always, sir. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Senator Loffreda, please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work, sir.
Well, thank you. First of all, an honor and a privilege being here with you. And you've had a lot of many esteemed guests, and I'm proud to be with you this morning, or this afternoon, that is. It's afternoon here, but it must be morning somewhere and night somewhere else. So good day to all. I'm Senator Tony Loffreda. I'm a senator from Montreal, Quebec. I'm an independent senator appointed in 2019. Before joining the Senate, I spent nearly 4 decades in the financial sector. I was an executive vice chairman at RBC before joining the Senate. Today, I serve as vice chair of audit and oversight at the Senate, deputy chair, audit and oversight at the Senate. I'm on the banking committee also. I'm former deputy chair of the banking, trade, commerce, and economy at the Senate. Sat on the finance committee for 6 years. I've been a senator now going into my 7th. So I've been on the finance committee for 6 years, the banking committee, the SIBA, which is the board of the Senate. But now being on audit and oversight, I sit on the banking and the audit and oversight. I'm chair of the immigration working group and chair of the World Bank and IMF Interparliamentary Network, or Parliamentary Network for Canada, and just got back from Washington, a week in Washington. I think that I work very hard. I try to bring value, live my values every single day. Integrity, responsibility, service to the community, service to the country, collaboration, which is extremely important. And it's important to live with our values and walk the talk. And so my work focuses on strengthening Canada's economic resilience, promoting accountability, and advancing growth at home and globally as chair of the World Bank and the IMF Interparliamentary Network for Canada.
That's absolutely incredible, sir. The amount of work that sits on your portfolio on your desk is tremendous. And once again, you censoring those values that are near and dear to you and that you walk with, once again, I think is inspirational to a lot of the younger viewers listening that must know that valued-centered approaches to our work is critical in terms of durability and growth and scale. So once again, I really appreciate all your impact. My next question is, what's inspiring you right now in your work, or what's keeping you up at nights?
You know, what inspires me the most is the opportunity to make a tangible difference in people's lives, improving the quality of life of Canadians, whether through legislation that helps Canadians cope with the cost of living factor today, housing affordability. Our banking committee is doing a study on housing affordability, or initiatives that empower small and medium-sized enterprises to thrive. I'm equally inspired by the collaboration I witness every day between senators, public servants, entrepreneurs, and citizens, each committed to building a better, fair, and more prosperous Canada. If you look at, there's many challenges, but what inspires me is, how do I make a difference today? You wake up with a purpose. What purpose do I have today? How can I make a difference? How can I bring value to Canada? How can I serve with integrity, responsibility, service, and collaboration across the aisle, with the House of Commons, with the ministers? I've sponsored 5 finance bills. And I'm very proud of that. And so this is what inspires me, is how can I give back? How can I wake up with a purpose? And how can I drive my values to Canadians and serve them the way they deserve to be served?
That's absolutely incredible, sir. Thank you for all that. My next question is, as a Canadian senator, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And how are you and your colleagues working to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
The biggest challenge is often achieving consensus in a world where polarization is growing. But in the Senate, collaboration has to be our strength. And as an independent senator, I work across party lines to find common ground and ensure sound, evidence-based policymaking. That's important. Evidence-based policymaking. Everybody has an opinion, but judgment is based on facts, research, experience, knowledge, and that's what's important, is bring your judgment to the Senate. And another challenge is communicating the Senate's important work to Canadians. It's not covered by the media much. When the media is sensationalism. When they want to look at other factors, but we do good work at the Senate, and the senators. I'm extremely proud of my colleagues, and my team and I prioritize transparency, engagement, and dialogue to bridge the gap. I think what's important is communication, collaboration. I do one post almost every day to show what senators are doing, what we are doing. Very important to do that.
Absolutely. And that level of transparency, I think, is so important in this era of depolarization. It really centers, once again, those values that you shared up front that really create a lasting impact for all Canadians. So my next question is, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work you'd like to share with our community of practice?
Sure. My priority, if we look at the next decade, so many businesses will be transferring hands, will be demographics. Our entrepreneurs are getting older. And over 70% of our businesses will be transferring hands within the next decade. So my priorities include improving Canada's business transfer and succession framework, particularly through the employee ownership trusts. I've been very, very active on that as a means to preserve jobs and community wealth. We want to keep our companies in Canada. Sovereignty, extremely important. So that too, I've just sponsored a bill, an S bill, which we, the senators, can sponsor bills and originate them from the Senate, an S bill, S-1001, which is the merger of two insurance companies, Beneva and Gore, to create Canada's largest mutual insurance company. That's in the House of Commons now, and we're trying to get that to the finish line. I'm focused on strengthening fiscal accountability, supporting innovation, AI. AI is the future. Adoption responsibly, enhancing our immigration system to better respond to economic and humanitarian needs. Our immigration system too has to work better. We have to control it a little better, but keep it open to immigration, selective immigration, important. And ensuring inclusive economic policies that promote shared prosperity. I think it's important because, when you look at the return on capital, it's been up here since the Second World War. Return on labor has been down here. You've got to narrow that gap. And I think society's very important to kind of promote labor, promote entrepreneurship. We keep the companies in Canada, keep the entrepreneurs incentivized to invest in Canada. I think it's so important to invest in Canada. We in Canada have two issues to work on, and these are the issues I'm working on: productivity, improve our productivity, and create more competition. More competition creates more innovation, creates more productivity, and it's extremely important to do that. So that's what I'm working on: small, medium-sized enterprises, the transition, trying to incentivize entrepreneurs to invest a little more than they're investing right now. We're great in Canada in research and development. We have no problems with the research side. We're exceptional at that. Development, we've got to develop multinationals. In Canada, we have 15 free trade agreements with 51 countries that covers 1.6 billion people, over 60% of the world's GDP. We haven't worked hard enough to kind of grow those trade relationships and decrease our dependence on the United States of America. So those are my priorities. Work on the trade agreements, enhancing trade with other countries, enhancing productivity, investment in Canada, and the small, medium-sized enterprises, because wealth is always created by the entrepreneur. Wealth is always created by the entrepreneur. And we have to incentivize the entrepreneur to invest. Maybe reduce taxes a little. Maybe we're there. We have to reduce taxes also to incentivize them to invest. Anyway, you see how passionate I am about it. And I think there's a lot of work ahead of us.
Absolutely, sir. Since the first day we met, you've always been on the cutting edge of all forms of innovative economic solutions for Canadians. And I can't applaud you enough as it relates to that merger between the oldest and largest mutual insurance corporations. I'm a huge fan of Gabby and Chantel and the team at Gore Mutual. So excited about that. And the work you've been doing around employee ownership is tremendous. I've always really applauded your leadership in that area, just based off the work that I've seen Bill Young, Matthew Mendelsohn, John Schnell. There's so many folks that, once again, always sing your praises because of the type of leadership approach that you take, that get it done attitude, making sure you put Canadians first and walk with those values you shared earlier. So my second last question, sir, is what is your ultimate goal? And what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Success means leaving a legacy of trust. Trust in our institutions. We've seen more polarization and bringing down our institutions. And I think nobody is bigger than the brand. So trust in our institutions, trust in our leadership, and our collective capacity to solve problems together. It's about ensuring that the Senate remains a chamber of sober second thought, where integrity and collaboration guide every decision. On a personal level, success is measured by a positive impact we have on Canadians and their daily lives. I think it's so important. And the legacy we leave behind, trust is the currency of every relationship. So Canadians have to trust our institutions, trust the people in our institutions, trust that they're working for the good of all Canadians. And if you look at the global economy, I came back from a week in Washington where, as Canadian chair of the World Bank and the IMF, we discussed many issues. And one of the questions that was asked to me was, why do you feel there's been such resilience in the world despite the tariffs and everything, the trade war that's going on? There's many reasons for that. But many countries, there's 195 countries in the world, 192 are members of the IMF and the World Bank. Many of the countries have learned from history. Strong, independent institutions. Strong, independent institutions lead to better decisions. And many of the countries haven't put counter tariffs, therefore haven't created that inflation. There's only two countries that put counter tariffs, and which is China and Canada. But to a certain degree, we could have put a lot more, but we've minimized the counter tariffs. And so it's important that trust in our institutions be sustainable long term and be admired by all Canadians and by the world.
I couldn't agree more, sir. And I think with voices like yourself, once again, walking with those values and doing that work on a daily basis with integrity and transparency, it builds a remarkable amount of trust. My last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
I often say, and I've said it because as a banker, all we had is credibility, right? And integrity was never negotiable. I encourage everyone, especially young Canadians, to lead with values. Stay informed and engage in public life, whether in business, politics, community service. Real change begins when we each decide to take responsibility and contribute to the common good. Contribute to the common good. And I'm looking at you at the same time. I know we have to look straight at the camera, but it's hard on these Zoom calls because I'm trying to look at you, I'm trying to look at myself, I'm trying to look at the camera. But what's important, I always say to the young people, a good conversation is 80% eye contact. With these Zoom calls, the eye contact, sometimes we're looking away from the camera. But what's important, I think what's extremely important is the young people have to get engaged. And they have to determine their values at a very young age and live by those values. And I've lived by the values of integrity, never negotiable, responsibility in many facets of life. May it be family, work, community. Take your responsibility, give back, service, be of service. Whatever you're doing a job, be of service to your clients, be of service to your shareholders, be of service to the employees if you're a leader in leadership. Service, so important. Collaboration. I mean, many times we forget that collaboration is essential to well-being of the world. We have to collaborate, and it's extremely important. So when you look at those values, you have to live with those values. And diversity is a value too. In what sense? Diversity is an extreme value. I mean, could you imagine a board of a company, whichever company, tell me an enterprise, tell me an industry. I don't just want to talk about banking, although I spent 4 decades in banking. But could you imagine a restaurant board with just chefs on the board? just chefs on the board, just 50-year-old chefs on that board. Well, the decisions wouldn't be as good as if you have a chef, you have a waitress, you have a maitre d', you have some clients, you have some finance people, and you take a. So diversity is extremely important in business. It's not about anything but taking better decisions. Because could you imagine the restaurant now has the perspective from the client? What does he want? Has the perspective from the waitress delivering your food, from the maitre d' booking your reservations, from your. You can put a dishwasher on your board and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Maybe. So I think it's important to have that diversity. I'm giving an example, for example, that everybody could relate to as to why it's important. But this is why it's important. That diversity is so important. It's a value because you get different perspectives from different people. You take better decisions. And trust in our institutions is important. Our institutions being independent lead to better long-term decisions. I'm proud and privileged to be a senator. I believe the Senate is an essential institution to our democracy. It's a sober second thought. We're proposing more and more legislation than ever before. We're amending more and more legislation than ever before as independent senators. And I believe in the institution, and this is why I'm here. So serving Canadians responsibly, with integrity, and collaborating to make life better for all of us.
That's incredible, sir. Thank you so much. When you speak about 4 decades and just a life of service and those pieces around integrity, responsibility, responding with ability, when you speak about the value of diversity, of lived experience, when you speak about collaboration, intergenerational collaboration, cross-cultural collaboration, once again, it just speaks to the fact that I was always impressed with your work, and I'm even more so now after this remarkable conversation / interview. So once again, I just thank you for your consistent.
Well, thank you, Victor.
Yeah. This is the same here, sir. And we'll close this interview, this conversation, the way we began, by giving thanks to the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Senator Tony Loffreda, for all that you do for so many.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for the opportunity, and keep up the great work. Thank you very much. A pleasure.